Hello and welcome to TechTool India. In this video, I am going to explain you about form validation. So in general, we use a lot of forms in Laravel application. Today, I am explaining you how you can validate your incoming data into Laravel application. Laravel actually gives several methods. We will see that in this video. If you are coming to the channel for first time, please do subscribe this channel to get more videos on web development and Laravel. So without wasting any time, let's get started. So what is the things which we are going to cover in this video? We are covering today how you can create a form, how you can validate a form, what is CSRF protection, how you can include and exclude the CSRF protection from your forms, and how to display the validation errors in form. So the first thing I'm going to do is create a form in Laravel. So I have already installed Laravel 9. If you want to know how we can install Laravel 9, you can check out the link in the description. I have put it down, the link for the video. You can check out the video for Laravel installation. Let's go into the code. The very first thing which we need to make a view file. So to that, we need to go inside our resource folder and views. Inside of views folder, let's create a new file, call it as form.blade.php. So this will be used as a view file for displaying our form. So the form.blade.php is our view file. I'm going ahead and just copying the bootstrap form from the bootstrap. Let's go into that. What I'm going to do, I am just pasting a bootstrap form. So I'm not going to write it on HTML. You can copy this bootstrap form from the get bootstrap and place it here. Let's go and write the root for this blade file. For that, what I need to do first, I need to create a controller. Let's create a controller by running a command php artisan make controller, and let's name it as test controller. Right? As soon as you hit the enter button, it will create a controller inside app http controller, and here you go. Here it is a test controller. So we have created a controller. Let's create a function here which will return the blade file as a view. So let's call it as an index function. I'm creating this index function to return the view. So what I'm going to do here, I'm going to return a view file and name it as form. This index function will return a form which we have created, the form view. Let's write a root for this. Let's open the roots folder, inside that web.php, and I need to write a simple root of get, give it as a form, and then I need to pass the controller, test controller, and then I have to give this a class, and then I have to pass the function name. I can give this a name as well, root name, give it a form. Right? Great. So we have written our root as well as controller and the views. Let's go into our application. Let's paste this /form. As you see, the test controller doesn't exist. Let's go in this. We need to import this or give it a correct path like app http and then controllers. This will be the correct path. Let's go and refresh it. Here you go. Now you can see a basic HTML structure. I have taken it from Bootstrap website. You can take it, and let's assume I need to register this user here by using this form. What we can do, the very basic thing, let's create a root which will store this data, right? Where this, after submitting this form, the data will go. Let's create a root which will be the post root, right? And name it form save, right? And copy the same thing from above. Let me copy this and paste it here. Instead of index, give it a store method, and as soon as you give this store method, let's give it a name as well, and inside a name pass form dot store. Cool. So we have written a root. Let's go ahead in our controller and create this store function. So to write a function, I'm just going ahead with this store function, which will actually accept a incoming request, right, from form. So we are using this request eloquent by Laravel to accept a form inside a function. Alright, let's go ahead and just dump all the data which is coming to request, right? So we have written our controller. Now the next step is go ahead and define the action of form so that the form submit will come to this controller function. Let's go ahead, find out our form. So we have to give a form for this. Let's give it a form here and wrap this form inside a form element. So we have our form now. Form, let's give it an action, right? Action would be, let's give the root name. And what is the root name? Form.store. And method, define this method. Method would be post, right? So we have defined our form and given the action. Let's give this button. This button is already a submit type. Let's go ahead and refresh our page and see what we see in the results. So we have refreshed it. Now if I submit this, so it has this required parameter. Let's fill some data here. Test at test.com and test and some random numbers. So we have filled the data. So the basic HTML required is pass. Now if I submit this form, you see it is coming for a page expired. Here it comes because of CSRF protection, which Laravel gives inbuilt for all the requests coming on a web, right? So let's see where it is and how it works. If you go inside app HTTP middleware, there you can find a verify CSRF token middleware, right? So this actually do our, what it does actually, if you go to kernel.php, you'll see there is a group of middleware for web, and in that you can see all the web requests will have this verify CSRF token. What it does, it actually verify a CSRF token from request coming. So in any case, if you want to exclude any request from the CSRF, you can define the routes here. You can define the path here which needs to be excluded. That will be excluded. But in this case, I want to verify the request. All the requests coming from the form should be verified. So let's go ahead and see how we can define the CSRF. So just below our form element, what I need to do, I need to write a blade directive which is @CSRF. This will include a CSRF token in our form. Now let's go ahead and refresh our form. Let's go back, refresh this form, and now if I write down this and written something here and put some password here, now if I submit this send, what it does, it actually sends all the requests as we have dumped everything inside controller. So now you can see we have name, email, gender, password, along with that this token. This token actually coming from this CSRF token. This is a CSRF token and this is verified. Now that's why it is just coming like you have a CSRF protection, right? Here it is. So we have seen how we can verify our request with the CSRF. The next thing is to write our validation. So to validate a request in Laravel, we have several methods available. We will see one by one. So the very basic one, which actually comes with a default request and then validate function. This will accept an array of rules. So as we have name, so the name parameter and then the rule. So the rules are required and there could be a minimum or maximum or character length. All these things are there. So let's see what kind of validations are available in Laravel. So let's go into our Laravel documentation. Open Laravel here, laravel.com, and find here validation. So the basics, validation. So these are the available validation rules which Laravel provides, which you can apply inside our rules. So if you see, there is accepted, array, before, date, digits, minimum, maximum, email, URL. All these are the available rules which Laravel gives, right? So we have written our rule like name. I'm just going ahead and copying this rule for name, email, gender and password, right? So we have written this required. Now if I go ahead and just remove this required from HTML and save this form, let's go ahead and see if our validation is working or not. Let's go ahead, refresh this, and if I send submit, it will go and come again. Why it's come again? Because we have validated our request and this controller request validate actually validates the incoming request. As soon as it sees there is a error, I mean this validation fails, it actually returns to the same route from where it is coming with the errors. So the very next thing is how we can display these errors. We want to display inside a form. So to display an error message, what you can do, you can write this if there is any errors. So we need to get all the errors and display it as a error. So instead of this, what we need to do, we need to check errors of any. So if there is any errors, we need to get all the errors here and display it, right? Let's write it text danger. So it will be displayed as a red text. Let's refresh our form and submit it. You see the name field is required, email is required. Let's do it a little bit better. Write a break tag just after the span. So refresh this. Now you see each of this is giving a error. So this is good. We are able to see what error it gives. And now the thing is, if we want to display this message just below this input field, so what we can do here, we can write this in a way where it displays the error message just below the input field. How it is? So blade directives comes called error. If you pass the name of the input field here, like if there is a name, right, then there is a span and give it class text changer, and this will be comes as a message, right, as a message. So let's see if this is working. If I hit submit, you see it comes below the input field, the name one. So similarly, we can display the error messages in a very effective way. Let's remove this and just write like this: error attribute, error blade directive in below the each input field, and by this way we will able to display each error message for each input field just below the existing input fields. So let's give it a name, right? So we have written. Now if I submit it, you see each input field has their own errors displayed below this error message, right? So we are able to validate and pass the validation message back to the view file and display it. So let's see what other available methods are for validating this request. So you have seen this one. I'm just commenting this out and giving you the second method of validation. So let's call it a validate with the help of validator. So I'm going to use facade, Laravel Facade validator, and this function, this facade will give this make function, which will, the first parameter is the data, array of data. So we can pass the data by requesting all. So it will pass all the data. The next array will be the same as we did above. So I'm just copying these rules here and then pasting it inside our rules. So this will validate. And now if there is a this validate fails, we need to check it. If this fails, we need to return back with errors. So with errors will take the error of validate and errors. So this will take all the errors and go back to the blade file, view file. So let's see if this is working or not. Let's go into our web app and just I refresh this. Let's hit send. You see this is working similarly. The third parameter which we can pass here in the validator make as well as in this validate function is the messages. For example, if you want to change the message of this, the name field is required. If I want to change this message, so what can I do? I can pass a third parameter, call it name, and which rule I can define for the same field with different rules. Let's see like if I want to define it for required, so I have to pass a message here. Name is must. So for example, I'm just passing this as an example message, so you can pass this. Let's see, let's hit the send button. You see others are same, but this name is must, what we have passed here, is coming through right from here on the name dot require. Let's see how we can add multiple rules. For example, I want a name should be required and minimum it should be of 5 character, right? So let's save it and go our page. Let's refresh this. If I just enter here a W and send it, it say like the name must be at least 5 character, right? But for example, if I want to display the old value which we have entered here, so how we can display that? We can take old method available in Blade. So how we can display? So inside this, if I type a value and inside a value I pass this old of name, right? So this will print our old value of name. The second thing we need to do in our controller, we need to pass with input, which will return the value of input as well, right? So we have given this with input. So let's see if it is working or not. If I enter here S and hit and send, so you see the old value remains here and the message which is coming here is a default validation message for minimum 5 characters, right? So how we can change a message for each rules? So let's add another rule here for name and give it as a name dot minimum. What if this minimum rule fails? So it should be something like, let's say name must be 5, right? Name must have 5 char. Okay, so it will give this message if this name minimum rule will fail. Let's test this. So if I refresh this page and hit enter enter some value inside this and hit send, so you see the name must have 5 characters. So the thing is, we can write multiple messages, multiple rules with different messaging, and by default Laravel comes up with the messages. So the messages are totally optional. If you pass the message, it will give the message. If you don't pass the message, it will give the default message. So this way we have seen how we can do this thing with the help of Validator Facade available. So we have seen how we can do directly with the request validate, the Validator Facade. The third thing which we can do, instead of writing this all validation rules and everything inside a controller, we can actually make a request file for this, and that request file will handle all the validation for this particular request. So let's say I want to create a request. So for that I need to run a command php artisan make request, and inside a request we pass the name of the request. Let's say form request or form data request. Say it form data request. That's fine. Let's hit enter. As soon as you hit enter, you'll see inside our app HTTP there is a folder. It make a folder. If there is already a folder, it will create inside that. If there is no folder, it will create a folder and then place this file inside the app HTTP request folder. If you open this request folder, the first function which it has is authorize. If you want to write some authorization logic here and then return, then you can write and return. Right now I'm just authorizing this request for wherever it has been used. It's authorized, so it will return true. And then we have a rules method. Rules method actually accept the same rule which we have written here. Let's copy this, right? and paste it here inside the rules. So simple, we had this form data request which will extending this form request, and then inside authorize you can write user authorization, and if you don't want to do that, you can return a true here. And the next thing is we want to write the rules. We have written the rules. So how to use this? Let's go into our controller again, and instead of using this request, let's use the request which we have made, form data request, right? So I will just use this form data request. So to use this, you have to use on the file this app http request form data request. And the best part is you can get rid of these codes and your controller look much cleaner. So let's see if this is working or not. We have not written any validation rule, anything on the controller, but it should work the validation. Let's go in our form, refresh the page. As soon as you send this, you see this is working. Let's put something here and then send it. You see the validations are working. So this way you can write the validations inside a request file and validate your all the form data coming from the form to the controller with just by writing the request. So this is a much cleaner way to validate your form data coming from the forms to the controller, and based on that you can write the rules inside this, and you can pass messages as well. So for example, what if I want to again change the messages? So to do that, what you can do, you can actually override the messages function of this particular request. So to do that, you need to write a message function, messages, and then as soon as you write this messages function, you have to return an array again. So for example, I'm just taking this name one, name dot required. So I'm just passing it like name is must, and again for minimum name must be 5 character, right? So that's good. Let's see if this is working or not. So we'll go in our form, let's send this. You see you can update the messages as well. If I input something here, it's updating the messages for this particular field because we have defined the custom messages here. This is pretty much straightforward and very useful to validate our form request without writing a single request inside a controller. This is a cool feature of Laravel. We must use this. I hope this video is informative for you. You have learned about Laravel form validation. If you do have any questions regarding validations, you can put your comment down to this video. And if you have any suggestion about on which topic you want a video, you can write down on the comment as well. And if you enjoyed watching this channel, please do subscribe our channel. Please show your support. Till the next video, keep watching, keep learning. Thank you for watching.